Hey, what's up, good people? I'm QC. Welcome to another edition of Talking and Grubbing. The Western Conference Finals is set, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be the Golden State Warriors versus the San Antonio Spurs. It's going to be the first time since the 2013 Western Conference semifinals that these teams met in the playoff series where the Spurs won in 6 games. Now, here's a summary on both teams during the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. The Warriors have dominated the playoffs. They look like the best team in the NBA. They swept the Utah Jazz and the Portland Trail Blazers in the first 2 rounds. Also, they've won their games by a margin of 16.5 points per game. That's one of the largest margins in league history. Also, they've done this without their head coach, Steve Kerr, who's recovering from complications of back surgery. Mike Brown, former Cleveland Cavaliers head coach, has done a solid job in these playoffs. On the flip side, the San Antonio Spurs have had battles in the first 2 rounds. They won a hard-fought 6-game series against the scrappy, defensive-minded Memphis Grizzlies. Then they had to turn around and win a track meet of a series against James Harden and the Houston Rockets in 6 games, where they closed out Game 6 on the road without Kawhi Leonard. And they've also done this without point guard Tony Parker, who was sidelined for the rest of the playoffs due to a severe leg injury. And Pop is always Pop. Now, let's break down the matchup. Starting at point guard, Steph Curry versus Patty Mills. Now, Steph Curry is definitely going to do his thing. I mean, he's a 2-time MVP, first MVP to be unanimous. He can shoot the 3, as we all know. Seems like he can shoot the 3 from Oakland or San Francisco or San Jose. He can also bring up the ball. He can get to the hole, which a lot of people sleep on. And he leads the league in steals. Now, Patty Mills, he's definitely done his thing in the absence of Parker. He can also bring up the ball. He's a good defender. He can shoot the 3, and he can definitely get to the hole on you. And he has a nice jumper. So, with that, I'm going to give the edge to Curry. Now, power forward, LaMarcus Aldridge versus Draymond Green. Draymond Green is definitely, I think, this year's Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's definitely going to take that title away from Kawhi Leonard. He has been beasting on defense now more than ever, especially in the playoffs. He definitely shows a lot of poise in the paint. He can guard every position on the floor. He can definitely get some blocks for you. LaMarcus Aldridge, one night he can look like the all-star that he was in Portland. Then the next night he can look like a bum. But LaMarcus Aldridge, I have to give him credit for being a beast in the closeout game against Houston. He averaged 34 points and definitely looked like vintage LaMarcus Aldridge. So I'm going to give that edge to Green, despite the fact he doesn't really have much of an offensive game, but he's definitely a hell of a point forward. And not only he can defend, he can also bring the ball up and assist very well. Now, excuse me, going to shooting guards, Klay Thompson versus Danny Green. Now, Klay Thompson, very great three-point shooter, but he's definitely a good defender. He can play hella defense on a perimeter and make your life miserable. Now, Danny Green, he's definitely come into his own over these last few years. Ever since playing with the Spurs, he's a great three-point shooter, but I think his defense gets slept on as well because he can definitely, not shut down the other team's guard, but he can definitely contain them. So I'm going to give the slight edge to Klay. Now, centers, Zaza Pachulia versus Paul Gasol. I think Paul Gasol is a very underrated center because, he doesn't have the personality of other big men in the league like a Shaq or even a Dwight Howard. And I think he also gets outshined by his little brother Marc Gasol. But this man is a multiple All-Star, two-time NBA champion with the Lakers. And if you really don't study Paul Gasol, then you really don't know basketball. On the flip side, Zaza Pachulia, I've never really been a big fan of Zaza. I think he's definitely too soft. He's always been soft to me. I mean, he can, score every now and then, but people can get around him in the paint. That's why Draymond Green is there to kind of clean up. And also, Bogut was a way better big man than Pachulia was. So I'm giving that edge to Gasol. Now, last but not least, the matchup they were very anxious to see in this series. Kevin Durant versus Kawhi Leonard. These two are definitely MVP candidates. Kevin Durant has been beasting in these playoffs. He can score 30 at any given time. He has a 6-foot wingspan, He can pull up from the perimeter and just knock down any shot. But what gets slept on about KD this season, he leads the Warriors in blocks. Now, on the flip side, Kawhi Leonard is more of a working man's power forward. He can defend. He can also, score in timely fashion. And also, he's improved on his three-point shot as well as his free throw shooting, which was a big Achilles heel that came back to bite the Spurs in the 2013 NBA Finals against the Miami Heat, where they ultimately won game 6 and went on to win the series in 7. So this matchup is very even. Now, on to the coaches. Before Mike Brown became the interim head coach of the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers and LA Lakers head coach, he was an assistant with Greg Popovich under the San Antonio Spurs for a few years. Matter of fact, he won the 2003 NBA championship with Pop as an assistant, which featured Steve Kerr on that team, also Hall of Famers and Tim Duncan and David Robinson. Excuse me. Now, Pop is Pop, and I think this man is one of the most underrated coaches in all of pro sports. I mean, he's a 5-time NBA champion. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's going to be coaching the Olympic team in these upcoming Olympics soon. I mean, Greg Popovich's resume speaks for itself, so I really don't have to say much. So I'm going to give this edge to Pop by a landslide. Now, for my prediction. A lot of people just think that this series is just going to be a sweep. Golden State should dominate the Spurs. I mean, they're old, they're slow, but what I learned over the years about the San Antonio Spurs, you never, ever count out that team. As long as Greg Popovich is the head coach of that team always has a chance of winning. And he's not only made a fool out of me, but he's made a damn fool out of me over the years by going on to win more championships. So this series is not going to be a cakewalk as many think for the Warriors. But that being said, I'm going to go with the Warriors in a hard-fought 7 games. Anyways, that's my Western Conference Finals preview. Like, comment, share the video. Tell me who you think is going to win this series and represent the West in the NBA Finals. Till next time, y'all have a good one. Y'all also pledge on Patreon and become a patron. Love y'all to life. Deuces. I put